And with us, we have Bo Ward. He is a former captive agent who previously ran an insurance agency for farmers, but now is an independent insurance agency owner. And during his time as a captive agent, tripled his business in 3 years. So we're going to just give a little bit of background on Bo and then jump into the questions. So thanks so much for being here, Bo. Really happy to have you.
Yeah. I'm a little under the weather, so my voice sounds terrible. I apologize. So
I'm sure 80% of us are under the weather. We're talking about how something's going around. I'm sure it's for me too. Anyway, so why don't you give us a little bit of background, like where you're located, when did you open your first agency, and then your current agency?
I am in North Texas, so the DFW area, right on the outskirts of DFW. When I got out of college at Texas Tech, I worked with a district office of farmers for 6 years. So I recruited and trained new agents that were 5 years or newer. So I did that for 6 years, got some good experience. And then an agency came available that I believe was like 700 or 800 PI policies in force. So I decided to buy that agency. And then about 3.5 years later, we tripled the book and had an opportunity to go independent and have some backing behind me. So that's kind of why I made the switch. But yeah, I started the district office, learned, the ins and outs of the business. But even, going from the district office to an agency, it's still a pretty big learning curve. So I made a lot of mistakes. But yeah, that's kind of the roadmap of how I got to where I am.
Nice. So, sorry, what year did you say you opened your first agency?
The first one was in 2017, I believe.
Okay.
And then the independent was in June of this year.
Nice. How many team members did you have when you first opened?
Yeah, when I first opened, it was just me and my wife. We didn't have plenty. We have 2 little ones, so we were working a lot of referrals, networking, but really just trying to keep the book level. Because as anyone knows, wherever you buy a book of business, you're going to have some more attrition than normal probably. So it was just me and her in the beginning, probably the first 6 months, I would say. And then my first hire was actually a telemarketer that set appointments for me to close deals. So my first hire was a telemarketer, and then my second hire was a producer. That was within the first year, I had a telemarketer, a producer, and then my wife helping us as well.
Wow. And how many people do you have now?
When I left Farmers, I had, I believe, 6. I had 4 producers, 1 in-house telemarketer, and then 1 CSR. And then I also outsourced a couple to a telemarketer through the Philippines as well that made appointments for us as well.
Nice. Was that through like a virtual assistant agency or like a?
Yeah, it's similar. It's very similar to that. I think virtual assistant does more customer service stuff. But as you guys can probably tell, I was more about the new business, because when you're captive, there's not a lot you can do on the rates, like for renewals. So we did some reviews, but I really tried to focus on, scaling our new business. And so I was really geared toward, scaling that and getting telemarketers and producers going.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you could just give us like a little bit of background on how you got into the insurance business and became an agent, and like what kind of prompted you to get into this industry.
Yeah, I graduated from Texas Tech. And my uncle was actually an insurance agent. Out of college, I worked for Mass Mutual Financial Services. So I did that for 1.5 years and sold life insurance and financial services. Was not making great money. So my uncle called me and said, you need to get the business to have residual income. So he got me hooked up with his district manager at the time. And I ended up going to work for him for 6 years. So my uncle he was an agent before me. So that's kind of how I got into the property and casualty business.
Nice. Family biz.
Yeah.
Um, Before we move on, we had a relevant question come up that I just want to kind of clarify with you before we change topics.
Mhm.
When it comes to like outsourcing or telemarketing, um, some people might be hesitant because it's like, how do you get that person up to speed on your own processes and how your own company works? Like, can you go
Right.
through your process with that?
Yeah, on the outsourcing and telemarketing, the group that I went through, they do is so they have ladies that call all day long, and they are I guess part of the contract is to set 3 to 5 appointments a day for each of my producers. So if I had 3 producers, I would usually have 3 telemarketers that were working together with the producers. So they would just send an email with the prospect's information and the best time to call them, and they would just email that to my producers, and so that's how we worked it.
Okay.
They weren't inputting anything into any system; they were just sending us emails.
Okay. That makes sense. Do you recommend using that process? And if
Yes, yeah. I have information that I could put in the chat or in the email whenever we get off, and I'll put the information on there. But for me, like whenever I was getting referrals and networking, we were pretty much staying even. So when I decided to scale, I talked to like the top 2 or 3 guys at Farmers, and I saw what they were doing, which was telemarketing and internet leads. So the one thing I will say about internet leads is before you buy a bunch of leads, you need to have some kind of lead management system in place. So I'm a big advocate of Agency MVP. We've used them for 5 or 6 years now because of the automation and the ranking of the leads of prospects. But if you don't have a follow-up system for leads or a lead management system, there's a lot of CRMs out there. But I think that once you have a lead management system, it's the first thing before you start buying leads. Because you hear all the time like internet leads aren't any good, or they suck or whatever. Well, they suck because you're not following up correctly. Even if we don't get one now, I know in 5 months I'm just building my database up for us to follow up in 5 months when they're renewing and no one else is contacting them. So there has to be some system. There has to be a lead management system in place, in my opinion, before you buy any internet leads.
absolutely. I second that. Totally. When people come to us and they're like, no, we'll just like, email them out to our producers. I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah, because prior, we were just kind of randomly pulling lists by producers. I might say 1 week let's do cross sell, or 1 week let's do win backs, or quotes not taken. And nothing was organized, nothing was automated. And especially with internet leads, I think automation is key. Text, email, phone call, and you've got to hit those leads, each one of them. We did it for the first 14 days. And then if there was no response at all, then we would send out a quote teaser through an MVP, and then still no response, any pipeline to renewal. So 30 days prior to the renewal. And then at that renewal date, they would get the next date or home next date workflow as well. So I want those leads to be getting hit or touched without us having to manually make every single phone call.
Yeah. Why do what work unnecessary?
Yeah.
So when you first opened your original agency, what was your strategy for acquiring new business, and like how successful was this for you?
Yeah, like I said, the first 6 months it was just me and my wife. We were huge on Facebook and social media, and then networking, chamber, just like everybody else. But I realized pretty quickly, especially buying the book, that I was going to stay even or go backwards after the first year. So I had to make a plan to be able to scale the agency and to make the revenue that I needed. And the only way, just in my opinion, is you have to have volume. So if you're going to buy leads, like through Quote Wizard, like we did for I think 5 years straight, I would, if you have a lead management system in place and have producers in place, I think they need to be having 10 a day. Especially in the beginning, the more the better. Like if you're doing 1, 2, or 3 leads a day, even if you have a lead, it's really not going to work the way it needs to. I always had a minimum of 10 a day. And then, after 6 months of buying leads or even 12 months, you can kind of reassess and you can tell when your producer pipeline are getting full or not. But it's just like mailers and anything else. If you're gonna do it, buy the volume and stick with it. Like don't do it for 2 weeks or a month. You need to do it for at least 6 months to really see any kind of ROI on it. So make sure you have it in your budget to fully commit. And then, like I said, have the lead management system and fully commit to it and stay with it.
Absolutely. So kind of on that note, could you break down about like how much of your business comes from each marketing source, like leads, referrals, snail mail, all of that?
Yeah. Yeah. So we did mailers for about a year. I would say like 5 to 10% came from mailers, 20% from referrals and networking, and the rest was from quote visit. So our other, we used one other one, but they weren't as good as you guys. So I pretty much canceled that one and stayed with quote wizard. So yeah, by the time I left, I would say 75% of our business was internet leads, and we were able to scale into the top 5 in Texas. So, do you guys get any kind of car share or any kind of deals with your captive carrier? I would definitely take advantage of that because when there was deals going out, I bought both of them. And then I would reach out to their agents and buy their leads if they weren't working. Because again, I just want to fill that database up because I know if we have the right lead system and lead management system in place, we're going to close it at some point. So if there's a sale going on, I would definitely recommend, jumping on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a couple people asking, just to reiterate, it sounds like you recommend Agency MVP as far as lead management. Are there any other kind of systems that you use to?
Yeah, I mean, farmers had like Sims or Apex or their own CRM. I feel like with the CRM, there's a lot going on, like in the background too. Like CSRs, they worked with the carrier systems. But my producers, I just want them looking at leads and prospects. So when they open up their prospect string, I want them to look at, who they should be calling and why they're calling. I don't want them to be being distracted with, other things going on the dashboard. So I would highly recommend Agency MVP. They rank your leads and prospects on most likely to close, and the automation's great. But it kind of keeps your producers on track. And it's it's simple. So I'm not a complicated guy, so I like to keep things pretty simple as well as my producers. So that's the main reason I use MVP.
Yeah, we get a lot of great feedback from Agency MVP. We integrate with. So
yes. So as soon as the quote wizard read comes into your system or into your dashboard through quote wizard, it's automatically going to come to MVP as well. And then it automatically integrates into a workflow. So they'll get a text and email immediately. So as you guys know, it's important to reach out quickly and first. So with MVP being integrated with Quote Wizard, that's even more of a reason to use both together.
Definitely. So you mentioned that you've been using Quote Wizard for like 5 years. So basically since you opened, and that like roughly 70% of your business comes from internet leads. What kind of lead mix are you typically taking as far as like filter types and?
Yeah. So I personally did all out of auto leads. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Craig Wiggins training. He does coaching, consulting. So I had all my producers go through the Craig Wiggins training, and I got pretty heavily into it as well. So they did a great job of cross-selling and bundling. So we personally did all auto leads just because of the cost. And again, I'm just looking to fill my database up. So there was really no mix. It was auto. It was always auto. And you can get more volume usually. So
yeah. And I feel like that's not common in Texas. Obviously, it depends on your location too. Auto
location, like Texas, with the hail and the wind here that we get, sometimes they can definitely lock down on homes. So that plays a big factor in it too. So if you're in a state that doesn't have a lot of weather, then I would definitely look at the home. But with Texas, I forget, the home regulations and restrictions are pretty pretty severe sometimes. So that was another big factor on the auto leads as well.
Yeah. So you said that you took about 10 leads per day.
Per producer.
Per producer. Okay. And
Yes.
you had how many producers at this point?
So at the end, we had 4 producers.
Okay.
We would get up to 40 or 50 a day. And again, when I looked at their MVP account, I could see kind of what their pipeline was. So I could, turn it on. I turned it on for a week or turned it off for a week. I could kind of gauge it.
Mhm.
In the beginning, I really just wanted to fill that pipeline up. So we were really in bulk. But as it went on, we did kind of pick and choose when we wanted to turn it on. But if we turned it on, we were going to definitely do 10 a day per producer.
Nice. And as far as like the territory you were pulling from, did you have a restricted territory or were you doing full state or what did that look like?
We were mainly staying in the DFW area because the population here is so big. There's so many people that and I got lucky and I was located in a good area with where farmers wanted to ride business. So I just did like a 10-mile, 15-mile radius of where I was located at, and it got me enough volume to what I needed. Mm-hmm. Farmers said we're not going to ride those zip codes, then I would definitely buy those internet leads from the Austin area or San Antonio. And I found that, a lot of people say when you're doing internet leads, it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, where you're located at. If you're in the same state, they're still going to buy it from you. So, like as an independent, we focus on Austin a lot, and we're good. So I really don't think it matters. It didn't matter to my producers, and the customer didn't seem, make a difference either.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I mean, we really encourage agents to take the widest territory possible because if someone is going to the internet to find a quote, they're not necessarily expecting the agent next door to be calling them. Like it's the World Wide Web.
Right. Yeah. If they're going on the internet to get a quote, I can't remember a time when an internet lead told one of my producers, I want a close to agent. They're looking for price, and your job as agents and producers is to, help them sell it on, on coverage. But price is a factor. But they don't really care where you're located at.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of hinted on your lead sales process, like using different lead management systems and whatnot. But could you just walk us through, like from start to finish, what your lead process looks like?
Yeah, when the lead comes in to MVP, like again, it's integrated, so they're automatically going to get a text, and then 5 minutes later they're going to get an email, and then for the first 14 days they're either going to get hit with a text or email. And then my telemarketers or producers are also going to be calling in the first 14 days. And then if we don't get a response at all from the text, email, or calls, then we will send them what's called a quote comparison on MVP. It's kind of like a teaser quote or a mailer. And then after a few days after that, if we still don't get a response, then we'll pipeline that lead out to 45 days to the prior to the next renewal, and then have them set up on a renewal workflow. So 14 days, text, email, calling, and then a quote teaser as well.
When it comes to like calling versus email versus texting, do you find that there's generally one avenue that gets the majority of responses?
What I found was that for my producers, like I had a guy that was like, he had kind of his own scripts on kind of text. So he did a lot of texting. And then my other guy, he just pounded the funnels. So I think a lot of that is your team members and what they feel more comfortable with. And again, as long as my guys are writing what the requirements are or more, I don't really care. But I had one producer that did a lot of texting or one that did a lot of calling. So, but you have to do both. You have to do text, email, and calling. And again, if with the telemarketing, then they're going to get hit as well. So we have producers and the telemarketing call them also. So you need to do all three if you're going to do internet leads.
Yeah, I agree. If you're allowed to text, some carriers
if you're allowed.
aren't allowed.
Yeah.
So when you say like a comparison quote, what does that mean? And what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So in MVP software, it has like, you can like put like what their current carrier information is. So you should ever see what they currently have when you quote the person. And then you can put like a teaser or like a preliminary quote on what you're offering. And it just has a breakdown of the coverages and the premium between the two carriers. And then that it sends it via text and email through the MVP software. And then it also shows you when they open it up, so you can see when they've actually opened up the attachment. So, and that's just another way to get a response because on internet leads, you just want a response. You want either if it's stop or if it's no, whatever, you want a response. That's the job, is to get a response. And if it's no right now, then we're going to pipeline it to 5 months. We're going to ask for permission. If we can call back, at next renewal, then we're going to pipeline it out to the next renewal. That way that leads out wasted. We still have an opportunity to get it in 5 months.
That sounds good. So like looking back on when you were developing and perfecting your lead process, what has made like the biggest impact as far as like texting your lead, like incorporating texting, increasing the number of calls that you make, calling during X dates?
Yeah, the biggest mistake I made when I first was buying leads was, number one, I wasn't buying enough volume. And the second thing was we had MVP, but we really didn't utilize it correctly. So we were just getting leads and they weren't getting worked correctly. Like we would call them for a few days. Like there was really no system in place. So I'm sure I spent quite a bit of money that really didn't show any kind of ROI because we didn't have a system in place. And like we weren't calling, and again, it wasn't enough volume. Like if you're buying your producer 2 leads a day, or 3 leads a day, it's just not, it's not going to work. It's not going to scale at the pace that I wanted it to scale. Now, if you want to grow slower, but that's fine. But I think it was the volume and really not having a concrete system in place.
When it comes to like keeping track of how successful your territories are and everything like that, like how do you know what kind of zip codes are working for you? What lead sources are providing the best ROI? Yeah. Like are you tracking these kind of contact rates, quote rates, etc.? Yeah.
And again, sorry to keep talking about on the lead management system, on Asia's MVP, it shows you how many outgoing leads you had, what your conversion rate was on your zip codes, and where the marketing source came from. So all that's tracked through agency MVP. So I can see like if we closed, if for one certain zip code was just flat out terrible, then we can just take that zip code off the list. But every month or every 2 weeks, I probably run the report. But the reporting and all those conversion rates were right there on the software that they did it for me. So
super easy.
Yeah. As long as I can download the report, I think we're good.
Yeah. Quick question too. Have you ever utilized live calls or transfers or anything like that?
We did transfers in the very beginning. And actually before we even bought from Club Wizard, I can't remember what the company was called, but they were, again, they're pretty extensive. And I kind of learned that I was more volume. I wanted a lot of volume. So we switched pretty quickly from the transfers to just straight, leads from Quote Wizard and get bigger leads. I've seen a lot of agents have a lot of success with that. So again, I probably didn't try long enough to really give any kind of feedback on it. But I knew that I wanted my database sealed in a big amount of volume. So that's kind of where we switched back.
It's definitely, it doesn't work for everybody. It can be a great option for some agencies, but
right.
Find that leads are just really working for you. Like sometimes it doesn't even make sense to go into that avenue. Yeah. So you've talked a lot about your automation process. Do you have like specifics on how using something like Agency MVP has impacted your sales results, like versus before using it versus after?
Yeah, I mean the ROI, and I had to look back at my farmer systems and look at all that, but the ROI was just a huge difference, and the response rate. Like again, on internet leads, you're just wanting a response. So if it's set up on automation and it's integrated with a management system like, with DM Quote Wizard or with MEP and Quote Wizard, then your response rate's going to go a lot higher. Because before then, the producer might get into work an hour late and we've already got 5 leads coming in and they haven't been touched. So I really am a believer in automation. That definitely increased our response rate. And again, when I'm looking at ROI, I really took a snapshot at 6, 12, and 18 months. Like if you're looking at ROI after 2 weeks or 1 month on buying leads, I don't think that's the right mindset. It's kind of like mailers. If you're going to do mailers, you have to do it for a long period of time. So if you're going to do it, just make sure you budget enough for 12 months. And then take a snapshot 6, 12, 18 months of what it looks like.
Absolutely. Would you recommend, like, when it comes to kind of like getting your new producers up to speed and like getting them comfortable with phone calling, like, have you ever used Internet Leads kind of like a training tool in that sense?
Yeah, there's a lot of good training material out there. And again, I'm just a huge advocate of the Craig Wiggins training. There's actually speakers or agents that are a lot bigger than we ever thought about being that built their book on Internet Leads. So we just listen to them and stole all their material. Done is not anything that I've actually created myself. I just go into the best agents and do what they're doing. So check out Craig Wiggins' training as well. He has a ton of stuff on Internet Leads, like sales scripts and education. So yeah, that's what we did.
Absolutely. And I think, I know Quote Wizard agents get discounts with Craig Wiggins. So if you if anyone goes to our agent education portal and goes to the partnership page, there should be information on how to get a discount if you guys want to try it out.
Yeah, there should be a discount, I think, with the MVP too. Like if you say Quote Wizard or you're buying Quote Wizard leads, there should be a discount as well.
Yes, we love getting the discounts to the client.
Yeah.
So when it comes to working Internet Leads, what are some like non-negotiables or things that your team has to do with every lead?
No, again, they have to do that. They have to do the calling for the 14 days, either by telemarketer or the producer. It has to be set up on automation, and they have to send the quote comparison. Because you wouldn't believe how many times somebody responded after, day 13, and we probably send that quote comparison or a teaser quote, and then they're willing to at least, get on the phone with us. So those things, and then in the beginning, if they don't say anything or if they say no or later on, they have the pipelining is huge. Like if you're going to work Internet Leads and you're not pipelining or setting it to the next goal dates, then the ROI is just not going to be there. So we have to follow up with those leads in 5 months when it's, time.
We have a question, kind of like a follow-up to the quote comparison that you guys send out. This kind of implies, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the quote that you're sending for your business is better in price. What if it's not? How do you sell yourself on value?
Yeah, again, we learned that through the Craig Wiggins agency, and it's, again, you talk about if somebody owns a home or owning kind of assets, they're driving around with state minimums, those assets are exposed. So we want to convey to the prospect or lead as quick as possible that, if we can double your liability coverage for $3 extra a month, I think it'd be a good idea. So I think keeping it simple for the prospect and lead whenever you're talking to them. A lot of times producers can try to oversell and tell them that how much they know about insurance. Nobody cares. They care about what the price is and what the coverages are sometimes. But again, if it's a homeowner, they don't need state minimums. So they need at least 100, 100, 300. And as quick as your producer can get to that conversation, the better. So they definitely try to transition into protecting their asset as well as providing the best price as well.
So I feel like I know the answer to this, but what would you say has been the key to maintaining such a consistent performance with internet leads?
You had to keep buying them. You had to keep buying them in volume, in my opinion, and the automation, and having a lead management system. Again, if you're kind of buying them and they're going into a CRM or whatever, and sometimes they get followed up with, sometimes they go, or it's just kind of random. They're just not going to work. So you have to have a really good lead management system in place and have your system in place. I mean, again, the 14 days, text, email, call, and then the quote comparison, and then the pipeline. So once those things are in place, again, even if you don't get it out, you have a great opportunity of this role to get them where nobody else is calling them. So, or most people aren't calling because I would think a lot of agents, or it seems like a lot of agents, they'll buy them, they'll work them for the first 4, 5, 7 days, and then they kind of just get lost, or they don't work them anymore. So, just staying consistent and then having a lead management system and strategy in place.
So we had a question come in from one of our listeners going back to when you mentioned using a telemarketing service. So regarding how you outsourced your telemarketing, how did you go about making it successful? Like what scripts did you use or processes? Because this asker used a telemarketer once and it had like absolutely no ROI. So how do you get around that and make the outsourcing successful and actually?
Yeah, I'll send Kelsey an email with the contact because the ones that I used, they were in the Philippines, and I'll listen to their calls. So they have a lady there that trains all the callers, and I listened to a lot of the calls and the recordings, and they were great. I mean, I would say internet leads and the appointments they set were our biggest, was our best ROI because you're getting all that information up front. So definitely, and the cost is lower as well. So definitely, I know there's a lot of telemarketing out there. I never found success in the States when it came to telemarketing, or even in-house telemarketing. It's hard to find someone that would just sit there for 5 hours, 6 hours, and just call nonstop. So that's just my experience.
Yeah, I've actually talked to a lot of agents who are outsourcing a lot of their processes. So
yeah,
it is the future. All right. So just a final question from me before we open it up to the floor. Like, would you just mind sharing with us a little bit about your plans for the future? Like, are you wanting to scale or grow? And if so, what are your plans?
Yeah, I mean, I have the independent agency set up the same way that I have the farmers agency. The only difference is I can write a lot more commercial now. So, but when it comes to processes, the personal lines, I have the exact same process that I did as a captive. So we want to build the independent agency up, and now we have the opportunity to write a lot more commercial. So,
awesome. So we had some more written questions come in. So Daniel wants to know, what steps do you take to avoid producers' numbers getting flagged as spam while outbound dialing on web leads?
So like I think we did it. I don't know. My CSR, my office manager, she handled a lot of it, but she would check it. I would say like if we were doing a lot of volume, we'd check it like every 2 weeks, and then we would just keep replacing the number if it went to spam. But I'm pretty sure she checked it like every 2 weeks.
Okay. Are you able to clarify what you mean by next renewal phase? Like, is that AEP or are these dual eligible leads?
Like next renewal. So like whenever you're quoting someone, like with farmers, it always populated like what their renewal date was. So if the renewal is February 1st, then we would either do 30 days. So we would either pipeline it to 12 or to January 1st or 12/15. So we did 30 or 45 days before their next renewal date.
Just to kind of get yourself back in front of them.
Right. And because they're probably going to get a rate increase. So it's a good time to contact them again because, especially in North Texas, everybody takes freight like crazy. So this is an opportunity to get back in front of them while they're getting that rate increase. And again, a lot of agents are not most agents aren't going to contact them at that time either.
So if anyone has any extra questions that they, maybe it's easier to say instead of type out or what have you, there should be a raise hand option. So feel free to raise your hand. Okay, looks like we have someone. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. Never done this before, so hopefully. Let's see. Ask to unmute.
Hey guys, thank you so much. Hey, my name's Ari. I'm an agent in Brooklyn. Really awesome. Yeah. So I texted that last question. When you say renewal, are we talking about somebody who's already in Medicare and passed the AEP? In the middle of the year, you're sending them a quote for that?
This is for auto and home insurance. So
okay, got it.
If you're looking at Medicare,
yeah,
we didn't do that. So we just did auto and home.
Okay. Do you do Medicare insurance?
No, I don't. No.
Okay. I missed the first 5 minutes. So if I missed it, if you had that in the beginning, I apologize. Got it. Okay. That's why I was. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good question though. Anyone else have any questions that they want to ask Bo? Okay. We've got Daniel. Gonna allow you to talk. How do I unmute you? Oh, there you go.
There we go.
What's on, guys? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I'm a performance marketing director over here at InsurTech Groups, and I just had a question for Bo. Have you ever looked into utilizing like AI technology, like Actify or Boom AI, to scrape old data leads that are like 90 plus days old to kind of drum up a live transfer or drum up an appointment?
Yeah, I got with the software team or the engineering team with the agency MVP, and we would buy age lists probably like every quarter, every 6 months. So yeah, I definitely, especially if like the telemarketing was they didn't have enough leads, that I definitely bought a few age lists and they scrummed it for us. And so, and it worked out pretty well for us, especially at the cost. So again, if you're filling your database up into a lead system that, that works well for you, then we can keep following up with those leads. But yeah, I bought a few age leads.
Awesome. Thanks for the advice.
Yeah. But they're not, age leads they're age leads. So if you have the money, or I would definitely recommend new ones if you have it. But if you need a big influx of 1,000 or 1,500, 2,000, that's another route to go.
Yeah, I was thinking of automating the like a call center environment instead of using like Philippines. Kind of like digitize that with the like a 2-prong approach with Actify or Boom, and trying to pit the two AIs together to see which one kind of comes out on top. And right now I'm in the beginning stage. I'm trying to see what's more effective, the artificial intelligent like text marketing route, or the dual prong approach with the email, text, and conversational AI with Boom. So time will tell. We'll see what's more effective down the road.
Yep. Awesome.
We have Michael raising his hand.
Hey, Kelsey. Hey, Bo.
Hey.
That was great. I just had a quick question. So maybe can you talk a little bit about, when you went to set up your independent agency, what you did differently? Did you staff it differently? Were there different systems that you had to contend with? And how do you get the data out of your lead management system and into, all the different carriers and stuff? I'd love to hear about that. Also, shameless plug for MVP. Happy to give anybody a free month. And there's a 14-day free trial. So if you are interested in checking it out, you can set up a demo on our website.
Yeah. Whenever I switched from the captive to independent, first of all, it was definitely more of a learning curve than I expected. But MVP is integrated with all the major raters. So like Easy Links and PL Rater, Turbo Rater. So whenever we put that on, whenever that lead comes in from Quote Wizard and it automatically goes into the MVP system, we can copy that information over to Easy Links. So again, if you're an independent agent, you definitely want to have those integrations in place. And it just makes the data entry, pretty much non-existent. So because if you're integrated with Quote Wizard and Easy Links, then there's not a lot of information or stuff that you have to do on the producer side. So like Michael said, I would definitely take a look at agency MVP and the lead management system, especially since they're integrated with Quote Wizard and the major raters out there.
We had another question submitted in the chat. How successful was digital marketing campaigns and GMB, et cetera, to building your business?
Digital marketing,
could be like SEM maybe, or social media marketing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I built my my wife and I built. She was a hairstylist and big into Mary Kay. I don't know if I'm sure you guys have heard of that. So she had a pretty good following. So we tried to utilize that quite a bit. But again, if you're gonna scale, referrals and networking, you can only, and there's only so many. And same thing with social media. Like there's only so many you can get out. So I think, in my opinion, if you're gonna scale, I mean, you need to buy internet leads, and if you then buy Quote Wizard and then have it integrated with agency, again, you're seeing them immediately. So I think if you're going to scale, I just don't see another way to do it quickly. Like I said, we did it in 3 years. Now, if you wanted to grow slower, that's fine. You can buy less leads. And so I think buying internet leads is definitely what worked for us.
So you mentioned that your wife had kind of like a big social media presence maybe. So did you just do, like, when it comes to social media marketing, was it mostly just kind of outreach to followers, or did you do any like paid social media ads or anything to gain business?
No, we both actually like direct message people. So, because again, like if we made a cool post or, whatever it was on social media, you might get a few likes, but once you direct message someone, that seemed to work best for us. But even doing that, again, it takes so much time, and it wasn't scalable for us. So once we kind of went through it, it's like, okay, what now? We hit everybody in our small town. And so then I got in the internet leads and finally it found a good system. That's where they really started scaling. Because the first 6 months we weren't even growing. We were like going backwards. So
yeah, I feel like that tends to be how it goes. You got to invest money to make money.
It takes money. And again, you can't do it unless you have a really good lead management system that rates the leads to prospects. So that way, again, your producers aren't wasting time on who should I call today, or just auto dialing Quote Wizard leads from 6 months ago and just put them in a list. Like if they're in agency NEP and they're ranked by the algorithm in their process, that the producers should be calling the right people at the right time. So that made a huge difference for my producers too. Like, instead of just calling, the only one works for prior agents, they were just calling random lists, and there was really no rhyme or reason. But having that system in place definitely helps them on writing more in their business.
So real quick, Ron, I can answer this question. Ron's asking, where on Quote Wizard's website can I find info on MVP? I'll just include the link to Agency MVP's site in my follow-up email, along with whatever discount promotional deal we have between Quote Wizard and MVP. So, and then I'll also let you guys know where the partnership page is on the agent education portal, just to kind of scan other discounts that we have as well.
Yeah, I'll put my cell phone on here. I'll put it on the chat too if you guys want to reach out and have any questions as well.
Cool. Derek would like to know, what are some of your proven phrases that your agency used on the phone or text that has helped you get responses and interest?
Yeah, whenever they internet, or they were calling an internet lead, as soon as that person picked up, they were going right into the vehicles that were showing on the information site. So, hello, this is John Dario. This is Jonathan. I see that you requested a quote, and I see that you have me, and that you live at so and so address. And then that's kind of how we went right into so we went ahead and assumed that we're getting the quote. So like a lot of times I hear people just say like, well, how are you doing? How's your day going? Like asking them a lot of questions. So I think assuming the quote and going into the information that you already have through Quote Wizard, which is, the address, the name, the vehicles, that kind of gives them more concrete. Okay, at least these guys have this information, so they're somewhat, real. And so I think that is what made a big difference. From when we first started buying internet leads, we were asking them too many questions instead of just transitioning right into the information and verifying the information and getting a quote out.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. I mean, a lot of these people submitting quote requests don't know how many agents are going to be reaching out. So
Right.
If you approach them as like, yes, I'm your agent, here we go. They're not even going to question like, well, wait a minute, maybe I'm getting other quotes. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. You're assuming that you're going to get the quote and you're going to be the agent as well. So and again, once you get that and build some rapport, then you can get into like their current coverages and, if they need to up their liability or dwelling coverage and then you try to go into that. But I think assuming the quote, validating the information that's already on file that you have, kind of pushes the envelope down the road.
Absolutely. Any other questions, guys? It's all great. Remember, you can raise your hand if you'd rather ask out loud.
Yeah, I put my cell phone number in there. So if any gathering people have any other questions, if you got the call, feel free to call anytime. So
I'll put that in the follow-up email to you guys.
Okay.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, we can give people 10 minutes back to their day. Oh, wait, hold on. We do have a question. Is MVP, like Quote Wizard, more geared towards auto and home as well? When I went to the site, I don't see references to health and Medicare.
Yeah, MVP is more, it's auto, home, commercial, and specialty, like the toys. It doesn't have Medicare in it. So yeah, it's mainly, it's geared for auto, home, and commercial.
Okay. Do you know, I mean, this is just a random question from me. Do you know if that's something MVP will implement in the future, or is it?
Yeah, I think that they talked about it because it does seem like more agents are doing that as a side revenue. So I'm sure like they've been around, for 7 or 8 years. So I'm pretty sure that they talked about it. And if there's enough, requests for it, they will definitely put that in their system. And I can also talk to them about it as well.
Okay, perfect. Scott would like to know, do you use MVP templates for your workflows?
Yes. So they have the API integration with Quote Wizard. They have lead re-engagement, win backs, cross sell, X-date. So I use all the workflow templates that they already have set up. And they also already have the texting set up for you too as well. So you don't have to go get your own Twilio account. If you can text and make text, they can use that number for you as well. So yeah, I use their templates, and then as we kind of went along, we made our own customized templates as well.
Do you have information on like your closing rates when you're using internet leads?
I don't have it with like I have farmers. I'd have to look and see, but I can definitely send it back over. And again, like are we looking at, because if we're looking at like immediately, like it's going to be pretty low. But if we're looking at 6, 12, 18 months, that's really when you're going to start seeing a bigger ROI. And for farmers, like, we got double the business commission at the time. So that definitely helps. But in the coastal renewal income, but if you're going to look at the ROI, again, look at it month 6, 12, 18 versus, the first couple of weeks. Now you can look at open rate, and then all that open rate and all that will be on MVP's side. And then as you get more data in there, you can look at the ROI and the marketing source that you're closing through MVP. But I don't have mine off the top of my head right now.
Looks like some people can't see the chat. Some carriers disable chat on Zoom, so sorry guys.
Really?
Info, yeah, it's frustrating. But any information that's in the chat that's like pertinent to everyone knowing, I'll just include in the follow-up email. So don't worry, guys.
Okay.
Any other questions? No, we already answered that one. Any questions, guys? That might be it. And like Bo said, I'll include his cell phone number in the follow-up email. So if any questions do come up on agency MVP, like you can reach out. Is that your preferred method of contact, or do you prefer email?
No, they can call my cell. I'll sell it me. So yeah, they can just call my cell or text, and then show them too. Like, if they get Quote Wizard and MVP, I can show them how it's integrated and how it works as well. So
nice. That'd be great. All right. Well, I think that's it for the questions. So any more thoughts or words for us, Bo?
No, I mean, just, learn from my mistakes. And again, if you're going to buy internet leads, like I said, Quote Wizard was our number one provider. And I recommend buying them at volume, as long as you have a lead management system in place. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. I learned a lot. I think everyone else did. It was great having you, and we'll hopefully have you on again in the future.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good one.